For centuries, China stood as a civilization renowned for its inventions, culture, and vastness. From the Great Wall to the invention of paper and gunpowder, China's contributions to the world were immense. Its rich history and cultural heritage were admired globally, and its vast landscapes, from the mountains to the rivers, painted a picture of a nation with deep roots and a profound legacy. However, by the mid-20th century, its economy lagged behind much of the world. The streets of China, bustling with people, told a different story. The nation, once a beacon of innovation, found itself struggling to keep pace with the rapid industrialization seen in the West and other parts of Asia. The country was largely agrarian. Vast stretches of land were dedicated to farming, and the majority of the population lived in rural areas. Traditional farming methods were still in use, and the agricultural sector was the backbone of the economy. Most people worked on farms. Industry was limited. The sight of farmers toiling in rice paddies was common, and manual labor was the norm. Industrial activity was sparse, and the few factories that existed were often outdated and inefficient. The economy was centrally controlled. Government officials, often seen in meetings, made decisions that affected every aspect of economic life. Propaganda posters extolled the virtues of central planning, but the reality was far more complex. This stifled innovation and growth. Factories lay abandoned, and production facilities were often empty. The centrally planned economy, while aiming for stability, inadvertently created an environment where innovation was stifled and growth was slow. After the Communist Party came to power in 1949, China adopted a Soviet-style, centrally planned economy. This model, inspired by the Soviet Union, was implemented with the hope of rapid industrialization and economic transformation. While this model initially brought some stability, it also led to economic inefficiencies. Factories, though stable, were inefficient. The early industrial efforts, though ambitious, often fell short of their goals. The Great Leap Forward, a disastrous attempt to rapidly industrialize in the late 1950s, resulted in widespread famine. Millions of people died. The ambitious projects, meant to catapult China into a new era, instead led to one of the darkest periods in its history. The Cultural Revolution, which began in 1966, further disrupted China's economy and society. The streets, once filled with hope, now echoed with chaos. The movement, aimed at preserving communist ideology, instead led to widespread turmoil. This period of political and social upheaval led to widespread chaos and economic stagnation. Schools were closed, intellectuals were persecuted, economic progress was hampered. The nation, once on the brink of transformation, found itself mired in conflict and stagnation. By the late 1970s, China was on the brink of change. The streets, once again bustling with activity, hinted at a new direction. The whispers of economic reform began to grow louder, and the nation stood at a crossroads. Its people were eager for a better future. The optimism was palpable. Citizens, having endured decades of hardship, looked forward with hope and anticipation. The desire for change was strong, and the collective spirit of the nation was ready for a new chapter. The stage was set for a new leader and a new direction. The late 1970s marked the beginning of a transformative era. New policies were announced, signaling a shift from the old ways. The leadership, recognizing the need for change, began to pave the way for what would become one of the most remarkable economic transformations in history. The year 1978 marked a turning point in China's history. It was a year that would set the stage for profound changes, reshaping the nation's future and altering the lives of its people forever. Deng Xiaoping, a pragmatic leader, emerged with a vision for economic modernization. His leadership was characterized by a willingness to break from the past and embrace new ideas, which was crucial for the country's development. He initiated a series of reforms that would transform China's economic landscape. These reforms were not just about economic policies, but also about changing the mindset of the people, encouraging innovation, and fostering a spirit of entrepreneurship. Deng's reforms centered on opening up the Chinese economy to the outside world. This was a radical shift from the previous isolationist policies, and it required a great deal of courage and foresight. He established special economic zones along the coast. These zones were designed to attract foreign investment and technology, serving as testing grounds for market-oriented reforms. These zones offered incentives for foreign investment, such as tax breaks and relaxed regulations. This approach was instrumental in bringing in much-needed capital and expertise. They became hubs for manufacturing and trade, driving economic growth and creating millions of jobs. The success of these zones demonstrated the potential of market-oriented policies. The reforms also gradually transitioned China from a centrally planned to a more market-oriented economy. This shift allowed for more efficient allocation of resources and spurred competition and innovation. Farmers were given more autonomy, allowing them to make decisions based on market conditions rather than government directives. State-owned enterprises were restructured to improve efficiency and competitiveness. Private businesses were encouraged, leading to a vibrant and diverse economy. These reforms unleashed a wave of entrepreneurship and economic growth. Small and medium-sized enterprises flourished, contributing to job creation and innovation. Millions of people were lifted out of poverty. The standard of living improved significantly, with better access to education, healthcare, and other essential services. China embarked on an unprecedented path of economic transformation. The country's infrastructure developed rapidly, with new roads, bridges, and buildings symbolizing the nation's progress. The reforms of 1978 laid the foundation for China's rise as a global economic powerhouse, demonstrating the power of visionary leadership and bold policy changes. One of the most dramatic outcomes of China's economic reforms was its emergence as a global manufacturing powerhouse. This transformation didn't happen overnight. It was the result of strategic planning, significant policy shifts, and a relentless drive towards modernization. The Chinese government implemented a series of economic reforms starting in the late 1970s, which opened up the country to foreign investment and encouraged private enterprise. Low labor costs, a large and increasingly skilled workforce, and government support attracted massive foreign investment. Companies from around the world saw an opportunity to reduce production costs and increase profits by setting up manufacturing operations in China. The government provided incentives such as tax breaks, subsidies, and the development of special economic zones to attract these investments. Factories sprang up across China, producing everything from clothing and toys to electronics and automobiles. These factories were not just limited to a few industries. They spanned a wide range of sectors, making China a versatile manufacturing hub. The scale of production was unprecedented, with entire cities dedicated to specific industries, such as Shenzhen for electronics and Dongguan for toys. China became the world's leading exporter of manufactured goods, earning the nickname the Factory of the World. The Made in China label became ubiquitous, found on products in every corner of the globe. This export-driven growth strategy helped China accumulate vast foreign exchange reserves, which further fueled its economic expansion. This manufacturing boom had a profound impact on China's economy. It transformed China from a largely agrarian society into an industrial giant. The rapid industrialization contributed to an average annual GDP growth rate of around 10% for several decades, lifting hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. It created millions of jobs, raised incomes, and fueled rapid economic growth. The influx of job opportunities led to a significant rise in the standard of living for many Chinese citizens. Workers who once toiled in the fields found better-paying jobs in factories, which in turn stimulated domestic consumption and further economic growth. Cities expanded at an astonishing pace as rural migrants flocked to urban centers in search of work. This urbanization led to the development of new infrastructure, including roads, bridges, and public transportation systems. The skyline of cities like Shanghai and Beijing transformed with the construction of skyscrapers and modern residential complexes. However, this rapid industrialization also came at a cost. The environmental impact was significant, with air and water pollution becoming major issues. The heavy reliance on coal for energy and the lack of stringent environmental regulations led to severe smog in many cities, affecting the health of millions of people. Environmental pollution became a serious concern. Rivers and lakes were contaminated with industrial waste, and the air quality in many urban areas deteriorated. The government has since recognized these issues and is taking steps to address them, but the legacy of pollution remains a challenge. Working conditions in some factories were harsh. Income inequality widened. While many benefited from the economic boom, others faced long hours, low wages, and poor working conditions. The disparity between the wealthy and the poor grew, leading to social tensions and calls for better labor rights and protections. While manufacturing remains a significant part of China's economy, the country has been actively shifting its focus toward higher-value industries, particularly technology and services. China's tech sector, in particular, has witnessed explosive growth. Companies like Alibaba, Tencent, and Huawei have become global giants in e-commerce, social media, and telecommunications, respectively. China is now a leader in areas such as artificial intelligence, robotics, and renewable energy. The services sector, too, has experienced significant expansion. China's growing middle class has fueled demand for services such as finance, tourism, healthcare, and education. This shift toward technology and services is part of China's strategy to move up the value chain, from being a maker of products to a creator of ideas and innovation.